Okay, so we're back, and I just reviewed the first part, and it made me kind of sad at the end, thinking about how men are pictured, how women were pictured. But again, we will look at kind of some positive interpretations. So a lot of the ones kind of here have some negative bent to them. My job is not to make you hate on the media. I love the media. I watch lots of TV. Since I started doing this assignment, I watched a lot of commercials with interest. So my job's not to make you hate on it, and I don't want you to, but I also want you to be able to look at it and analyze it, because, what's out there, there's so much money is put into the psychology behind advertising. Just do it. The story is not that crazy. It really isn't, in terms of what goes into advertising and research on what makes us desire things and want things and buy things in the end. So we need to have this kind of good basis of being able to look at this and really kind of see this for what it is. Now, one of the things that you'll remember, and let me see if I got the right screen here. Oh, no, wrong screen. One of the things you'll remember is we're writing this formal essay in which you carefully look at an advertisement, explain what it reveals about contemporary culture, values, goals, acceptable roles in society, etc. And also from reading the essay assignment, you know that this is the essay 1301, essay 3 page, that you are going to have to use at least 2 of the readings we do that are marked with the asterisk. So this has some stuff at the top, of course, the introduction I'm going through here, those kinds of things. And then our major readings, I haven't updated these yet, but they're in there. They're down below. These are our major readings. These 3, the advertising analysis, advertising's 15 basic appeals, and the introduction to media literacy. Those 3, very important. Those are like your textbook for this, because they give you these techniques and different kinds of things that advertisers do. And I referred to a few of them in the first part of this introduction that help you look at that. Like, what are they using to sell us in those ways? That idea of fear, you've heard before, sex sells. We like humorous commercials, so that idea of using humor. So those talk about those basics, and those are really key. So as you read those carefully, slowly, and then as you go through and you look at things, either if it's stuff that we're looking at, some student samples, things like that, as you're deciding what ad to write about, go back to those and skim through them. Just go back and say, oh, wait, hold on. Let me read this paragraph or 2 here where they're talking about this idea of, the need to aggress or the need to protect, like with kids, right? Let me reread this and think about how it applies here. And so that will help you a lot. Do that for yourself. I know that we're we're in the second half of the semester, we're focusing on winding down. And I know that you've got a lot on your plate. That's it. Don't blow those off, right? Do those, read them carefully, slowly, thoughtfully, and then go back to them, use them as references as we go through this, and it will help you. It will make things a little easier. Not easy, but a little easier, okay? So we're reading a number of things. There are some professional samples of people doing this, and some of them I've marked that notice you can use those. So there's more than just what's on the syllabus in terms of what you can use to refer to for your 2 sources you have to use in your paper. And so then there's more reading on the subject. There are so many things I find all the time, things that have been on the reading list and they got replaced. I found something better, but I still want them accessible. And then there are a ton of student samples. And with the abstract, if you do that, that's up to 5 points extra credit on this paper. So there are about 3 samples with abstracts. So if you want to look at those. But again, that's something we do once we've written the paper. Okay, so there is some basics there. Let us just get to, I promised video ads, so let's watch a TV commercial. And remember, this is fair use. I'm a teaching. So let us watch this lovely ad. I'll make it big.
The things that make us Americans are the things we make. This has always been a nation of builders, craftsmen, men and women for whom straight stitches and clean welds were matters of personal pride. They made the skyscrapers and the cotton gins, Colt revolvers, Jeep 4x4s. These things make us who we are. As a people, we do well when we make good things and not so well when we don't. The good news is, this can be put right. We just have to do it. And so we did. This, our newest son, was imagined, drawn, carved, stamped, hewn, and forged here in America. It is well made, and it is designed to work. This was once a country where people made things, beautiful things. And so it is again. The new Jeep Grand Cherokee.
So, what do you notice? All sorts of things, right? Like, there's just a ton of imagery going on there. If we look at, I've got a list here in the pre-writing, or not the pre-writing, the introduction here. And if you look here, I mean, I just made a list of everything you get: a pounding railroad bike, the train speeding across the bridge, a factory, an early airplane, a man carving wood, a factory, a sewing machine running, a skyscraper, horses running, jeeps rolling down the road, probably in the 40s, parades of returning soldiers, looks like World War II, baseball, a telegraph, a train, more jeeps, a man swinging a sledgehammer, a switch being turned on, a man in a face shield helmet, flashing lights, a new jeep speeding down a wet dirt road, a hammer pounding a railroad spike in, the new jeep driving away down the road, the interior of the new jeep, the factory where the new jeep is made, a man working on the factory line, the jeep's upholstery, the steering wheel, the jeep in the woods. Wow, that's a lot of stuff, right? So this commercial is really just a barrage of all these images. And then, of course, we have that music, right? That background music. What's the kind of feel of it? I mean, it's this feel of, like, like the pounding, right? This kind of idea of strength. It's very repetitious. So it becomes this kind of background filter, but definitely that kind of over and over, this idea of, which keys in with the idea of hard work, of doing, of making, of all of that. And then we get the guy's voiceover as he gives us this thing. So we're going to watch this again. We're actually going to watch it 2 more times. So let's take a look again. But this time, I want you to just listen.
The things that make us Americans are the things we make. This has always been a nation of builders, craftsmen, men and women for whom straight stitches and clean welds were matters of personal pride. They made the skyscrapers and the cotton gins, Colt revolvers, Jeep 4x4s. These things make us who we are. As a people, we do well when we make good things and not so well when we don't. The good news is, this can be put right. We just have to do it. And so we did. This, our newest son, was imagined, drawn, carved, stamped, hewn, and forged here in America. It is well made, and it is designed to work. This was once a country where people made things, beautiful things. And so it is again. The new Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Did you hear that little bit of an accent? We make the skyscrapers. It's made in America. It's real subtle, right? And so his voice, he's got this kind of mid-range voice. It's deep, but not overly deep. It's not too high. There's this subtle accent back there. And I come from a family that has both accents. I was raised on the border, so sometimes I do say move the share. But at the same time, I got another part of my family that's like this. My niece, she talks like this all the time. It's just so cute. um, and when I'm around it, I start talking like that too, and it drives me nuts. So I get that, and I pay attention to a lot. I love, the way we have such variety in the way we talk. I like language, English teacher, go figure, right? So we get that, right? And it has all these things going on. But then when we look at the actual words of this, and that's what got me. This ad. I was sitting on my couch. It was in August, probably about the time of the year it is now, prepping for classes, getting things ready, working on my schedule and everything. And this commercial came on, and it just stopped me. And here's why it stopped me. So let's look at what it actually says. It says, the things that make us American are the things we make. Okay, hold the horses. Right there. I mean, I believe in making stuff. Oh my gosh, I got like crochet stuff over here, and there's painting stuff over there. I'm just, yeah, okay. Who owns the power tools in this house? The skill saw, the drills, all that stuff. Mine. I love making stuff. Making stuff is cool, and I get it, and I get, the artistry of things. I get that, but this idea that it's the stuff we make. Oh no. So anyway, I'm like, okay, so this just like jolts me, right? This has always been a nation of builders, craftsmen, men and women for whom straight stitches and clean melt welds are matters of personal pride. Like I said, I get that. I come up from a family that sewed, that made things. I mean, it was always about, you're going to do it right, take pride in what you do. So again, I get it. They made the skyscrapers and the cotton gins, Colt revolvers, Jeep 4x4s. These things make us who we are. Now, I also get kind of our things as history, right? This idea of, I mean, we saw that in how many of the emblematic objects, the SA1, where it's this idea that, this thing that has been passed down that came from somebody else, that represents somebody else, that gives us that connection to our history. So, yeah, I get that too. But this becomes so much for me. And again, this is one of those things that will often be the hearer, right? My job as a writer of this paper is to make those connections and clearly and logically explain those, but not everybody has to agree with them. Okay. But this becomes this thing, and then they go on to say, or this thing where it's about, these things make us who we are. I kind of thought it had to do more with the Constitution, with, yes, a shared history, but kind of beyond things like that. As a people, we do well when we make good things, and not so well when we don't. And I get this too. Because, one of the things this really points to is the loss of the factory job. And the loss of the factory job was a huge hit to this country. Factory jobs were union jobs, so wages were better. Employees had more protections. They had benefits like medical insurance, a pension. You could actually buy a house and a car, maybe just one, right? But you could provide for your family. You could send your kids to college. You could retire. I mean, these were jobs that helped the American dream become the American dream. And with the loss of those, we are suffering for that in so many ways. So anyway, I get that too. So far, I'm kind of on the fence about this. I'm like, wait, we are what we make. And that, okay, yeah, I get it. I believe in good quality work and taking pride in what you do. But at the same time, it comes back to these things make us who we are. I'm just kind of on the fence about it. Then they say, wait, the good things, let's see, we do well when we make good things, not so well when we don't. The good news is this can be put right. We just have to do it. So we did it. This, our newest son, was imagined, drawn, carved, stamped, and forged here in America. It is well made and designed to work. This was once a country where people made things, beautiful things, and so it is again. The all-new Jeep Grand Cherokee. Aren't you moved? So the couple of things here too is that this was once a country where people made things, beautiful things. Has that ever stopped? Right? I mean, do we have this sense of, oh, that we don't do that anymore? No, we do things in different ways, right? I'm getting old enough now, turned 49 this year. Never been 49 before. 48 was great, just so you know. But I'm getting old enough to start having those feelings of nostalgia for when I was a kid and the way it was then. And yeah, I do see them as much more rosy pictured and wonderful. Was it really? I don't know. I was a kid. Was it more my attitude than the reality of the thing? Were the 50s really better? Not really, right? And especially if you're a person of color. Not really. If you're a woman, there just wasn't as much opportunity. Not really. Dude, they didn't have the internet, cell phones, that kind of stuff. Maybe that was better. I mean, we tend to look back on our past and glorify it. And I'm not saying there aren't wonderful things, right? I mean, each generation gives to the other, and the other takes it and molds it and shapes it, makes it theirs, and then it goes to the next. And so there are these really wonderful things in that way, but this also creates this sense of nostalgia, and it also tells us this message that things aren't as good as they were. Well, yeah, the loss of the factory job hit America hard, right? But are there also some good things about that, right? Has it opened up more jobs as we move out of a creation economy, um, where a lot of factory stuff is going to be automated and things like that? We move into a service economy of what can we do for one another, but we also move into an economy where people are creating things that are much more individual, so that yeah, you buy this thing that comes out of the factory, or you buy this thing that's made by one person. And so I mean, who knows where it'll go? I do not know how to predict the future, but this kind of idea that they're going to save us, right, is implicit in there. The idea that the country's not working so well and they can. When they say we did this, our newest son, that was for me, that was the breaking point. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, I mean, like writing is often compared to like, like, I mean, giving birth to your ideas. Okay, I get the metaphor. I'm an English major after all. I get it. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, when we do place this value of humanity on our stuff, then where does our value of you and me, of the individual, go? So again, you can see, how am I reading through these lines? It's from the Kelly perspective. I cannot separate myself from me. You cannot separate yourself from you. So I'm not telling you, don't ever think I'm telling you to read it my way. If we talk about things, if you email and we're working on something, I may say, here's what I see that is meant to inspire you. If you see that too, cool, go with it. If you're like, no, I don't see it that way, then it will help you, because the moment somebody says, yeah, it's this way, and if we don't buy it, what do we think? Boom, all of a sudden we're like, no, it's not, it's this way because of this, this, and this, right? So don't feel like you have to agree with me. I got crazy things going on in my brain. I don't know if you want to be there. So that's kind of one of the things. And so we listened to it. We, we watched it by, watching the whole thing. Let's watch it again, though, without sound. Okay, let me just turn that off and check this out. So, did you notice anything different that time? Does it help you kind of see images more? Things like that. One of the keys to doing a video ad is you need to watch it, you need to listen to it, and then you need to watch it without listening to it. You will notice those layers. It's kind of like that reading that story or that article that you're doing the analysis, what we just finished with essay 2, on, is looking at it really in depth. So make sure you use all those things if you're doing that, because whenever you don't have the sound, your eye notices more details in terms of what you see, and that'll help with your description. But the more you describe, the more deeply you describe your ad with this first pre-writing, and that's one of the steps we'll do in the first pre-writing. The more deeply you describe your ad, the more things you will notice, and the more things you will notice, the more things you'll be able to develop ideas and comment on. So there's one ad that's a pretty straightforward one. That is pretty much kind of how I went through it is I went through the sound, the text, the looking at it, what does it add up to? And I mean, it does play on nostalgia, it plays on patriotism, it plays on this idea of, our stuff being what defines us and makes us who we are, which is at the heart of kind of what my moment in that August sitting on the couch going, what the heck, was really about. It was really about that. So I want to show you one more commercial two times. So let's check this one out right here. Let's get rid of the Jeep one. We don't need that anymore. Okay, here we go. Check this one out. It's a Super Bowl commercial, so it's a little long, and I'm going to let it play through. Okay. Queen Bee.
A big noise playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face, a big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing we will rock it. I said we will rock it. Oh yeah, buddy, you're a young man, hard man, fighting in the streets, gonna take on the world someday. Blood on your face, big disgrace, waving your banner all over the place, yeah. We will rock you. We will rock you. Yeah. Oh yeah. Buddy, you're an old man, poor man, pleading with your eyes, gonna make you some peace someday. You got mud on your face, big disgrace. Somebody better put you back into your place.
So, what did you notice? That is the big question here. What did you notice? Now, first of all, with something like this, it's very much narrative, right? And so this is telling a story. We have our three fine gladiators. We got Beyonce, we got Britney, we got Pink. When I grow up, I want to sing like Pink. Um, so we've got them. They're supposed to come out and do what? They're supposed to fight, and gladiators are supposed to typically fight to the death. At least that's the way we think of it. And instead, what happens? They refuse to do that, right? So this is the Colosseum, Greek, right? So going back there, instead they refuse to do that. They throw down their weapons. And we notice, in the meantime, we keep getting these images of this is Julio Enrique Iglesias. I date myself. My mom loved Julio Iglesias. So we keep getting this image of this king, this Caesar. And once he got there, man, look at that. That's the drink of the gods. He's got the Pepsi. And of course, they're singing and the people are chanting. And the drink of the gods is, man, I mean, it's headed toward this dangerous place. And the Caesar's looking around. And the Caesar, of course, absolute monarch, total control. He says, down with it. That's it. You die. Um, but again, our gladiators, our fine gladiators are engaging everybody like they're all together. Here we are together. It becomes this very communal thing. And then, of course, there goes the drink of the gods. Look, check it out, man. And notice what they're doing. They're drinking the drink of the gods. Lion, what's the implication here? He's going to get eaten, right? And then what do our gladiators do? They share the Pepsi with the people. This is a story about values. So one of the things that's mentioned in, what you can talk about is values. And so values are like the value of having the American dream, the, house with a white picket fence and a car and this and that and whatever, 2.5 kids and a dog and a cat and I don't know. This idea that you should have that or should want that these are the things you value. And this is about values. This is the story of democracy, right? So the king is overthrown. We find it funny that he's going to get eaten by the lions and not our gladiators because they got him off the throne. This thing that used to be relegated for the king, the Pepsi, the drink of the gods, the king, right? Because kings, monarchs are supposed to have that direct, okay from that higher power, right? So here's this Caesar who is, representing that, and only he gets it. And then not only do they get it, but they share it with everybody else. So this commercial. This one is totally about democracy. We're going to watch this commercial again, but it's a different commercial. So watch it and pay close attention and see what it is you notice in this one. The quality's not that good, so please bear with that. But watch for the differences.
A big noise playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing we will rock you. I said we will rock you. Oh yeah, buddy, you're a young man, hard man, fighting in the streets, gonna take on the world someday. Blood on your face, big disgrace, waving your banner all over the place, yeah. We will rock you. We will rock you. Yeah. Oh yeah. Buddy, you're an old man, poor man, pleading with your eyes, gonna make you some peace someday. You got mud on your face, big disgrace. Somebody better put you back in
gets eaten that time? When I first saw this, I was at a pop culture convention in St. Louis, which was a great city, by the way. And anyway, it was so funny because, here we are, we're English, sociology, I don't know, culture, whatever kind of teachers we are, things like that. And so we watched that first one, we're like, yeah, okay, we get it. And we watched that second one, and that end is just, even now when I watch it, I'm still like, wow. I mean, check it out. What is this smile on his face? He's still smiling. We heard the lion roar. Who got eaten in this one? The gladiators did, right? I mean, they're the ones that got eaten. And notice too, another thing, I mean, one, he didn't get like thrown off the throne in that funny way, right? He just gets up and walks down. But also notice too, when they are drinking, when they're drinking the Pepsi, they're just drinking the Pepsi. They never throw it out to the masses. So they don't throw it out to the masses. So this was made for, obviously, for the Middle East. Now, all they had to do was put Amir Diab, who's Egyptian actor, singer, I'm not sure, star, celebrity, in it and replace Enrique Iglesias, right? So they didn't refilm this whole thing. When we talk about Super Bowl commercials and people talk about that being millions of dollars, that just means to buy the spot, the time on air. It doesn't include all the filming. I mean, getting Beyonce and Pink and Britney and Enrique Iglesias and Amir Diab, and then having the production crews and doing all of this, right? So it is a lot of money. They don't want that to go to waste. Apparently, Pepsi is much more popular in the Middle East, so why waste a good Pepsi commercial, right? But can you show countries that have largely been based on monarchies where to overthrow the king is the bad thing? I mean, it's hard for me to see that, having been born and raised in a democracy where, one of our crowning achievements is getting rid of King George and saying, we declare these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and have rights, and, you can't stand over there in England and tell us what to do and pay us taxes and not give us representation. And I could go on and on and on. I'm the little girl who carried a constitution with her for years, okay? So, yeah, I mean, it is hard for me to kind of see that as okay, but in the sense of, someplace where you're raised with this idea of a monarchy, then that idea of that being overthrown, that idea of that being the thing that is good, that thing that is valuable, is what's represented in this version of the commercial. And so what I love about these two versions of the same commercial is they show us those different values. They show us the value of democracy with the first one, where I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that dang Caesar should get overthrown and everybody should be able to have the opportunity to get a Pepsi. And I watch that second one and I'm like, he let the lion eat the gladiators. That's not the way it's supposed to work. The people are supposed to win, right? It's about by the people, for the people. So what's really funny is that, again, visceral reaction to understanding one, it makes me understand my point of view more because it makes me aware of it. All of a sudden, I'm like, wait, that one looks wrong. Why is that? Okay, well, here are two different value systems, democracy, monarchy, right? And how does that play out? But then it also lets me look closer and say, what are those key things that are parts of that? That idea of sharing, the people get everything, or no, there are some things that the monarchy, because the monarchy is what it is more deserving of. I still can't quite say that with a straight face. But anyway, so I love those ads because those are real examples of, how it's really showing us this is a value of things. So those are all just kind of things you can think about as you're looking at, ads and thinking about what it is you do want to choose to write about. And your choice is definitely something that becomes very important in terms of, to help you out. If you pick something kind of too simplistic that you can't find those layers in, it's going to be hard to write, and you may end up kind of adding one in as we go along. I know that we'll look at gems between the lines, and it's one where he actually started. He was like, I got tons of ideas. I'll be able to do this. He started writing or kind of doing his pre-writings, and he realized, he came to me and said, can I add another one in? And I said, yeah. Exactly. So, looking at more than one may be helpful, that kind of thing. But we'll look at lots of samples. When you look at those samples, look at how they do this. What are they looking at? What are they doing? Those steps. And of course, like I said, with on the essay 3 page, go back to these three kind of first three readings here are definitely kind of what you want to think of as your major textbook for this, in terms of the kind of basics of, so those really important in terms of the basic ideas that help you. You can say, oh, advertisers do this or do that, and then you can look at your own ad, go through the list and say, oh, yeah, it does this, does that, and then go back and reread it. And these are, I mean, they're all amazing. That's why this is such a long page, because like there's so much great stuff out there. Okay, so again, you're going to write a formal essay in which you look carefully at an advertisement or advertisements. Oops, wrong one. Oops, sorry. And let me get rid of me. And explain what it reveals about contemporary culture, values, goals, acceptable roles in society, etc. These final notes are just about the fact that I love TV, I love entertainment. So again, I'm not trying to make you hate on it. I just want you to have these moments where you can open your eyes and be aware and do this kind of deep analysis. This is deep thinking. You have to look between the lines and say, okay, here's this thing. What does it mean? What does it represent? What is it showing me about what, whether it's good to be something, bad to be something? This is the way you want to be. If you're laughing and it's funny, what are you laughing at? Why is it funny? And should it be? Something to always ask ourselves. So enough of me. This has gone on longer than it should have, longer than I wanted it to, but the way she goes, way the road. Anyway, think about those things. Keep those things in mind as you move through this essay. Remember to ask me questions. That's what I'm here for. And look at the samples. And we do it step by step. So this is your introduction. We'll be doing pre-writings. You'll be, letting me see a draft so I can give you some feedback before you turn in that final. And once we get through this, so hold on. And once we get through this, we are just really one last baby step and we're done. So hold on. Keep on keeping on. You can do it. And we will see you later.